Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something maybe a bit unexpected, the Global Stylus Printer Market. Yeah, it sounds specific, but it's quietly booming. Our mission today, unpack some fascinating revenue forecasts. You want to pull out the key bits of info so you can get up to speed fast on this, well, kind of hidden corner of the economy.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're leaning entirely on one really solid source. It's excerpts from the Global Stylus Printer Market, 2021 to 2033 revenue forecasts, put together by Cognitive Market Research. So, just to be clear, all the figures, the projections, everything we talk about today comes straight from their research.
And honestly, the numbers involved are, well, they surprised me. We're starting with a global market value back in 2021 of, get this, over $2.2 billion. That's billion with a B. And it's projected to climb, hitting nearly $2.9 billion by 2025. But then it really takes off, forecasted to reach almost $4.8 billion by 2033.
It's quite a jump.
It really is. More than doubling in, what, about 12 years? But hang on, maybe we should back up for a sec. For listeners who aren't familiar, what is a stylus printer? How is it different from, the printer sitting in my office?
That's a really good question, definitely worth clarifying. So when this report talks about stylus printers, it's generally referring to printers using a very precise point, like a stylus or a pen. Think of it making marks or impressions point by point. It's not like your inkjet or laser, which cover broader areas quickly. The strength here is precision and versatility.
Precision, how so?
Well, they excel at marking things like tiny product codes on electronics, maybe detailed patterns on textiles, or really durable labels on industrial parts, often on surfaces that, frankly, regular printers just can't handle well. Metal, curved plastics, that sort of thing. So it's about accuracy, yes, but also durability and adaptability for specific industrial or commercial jobs. Less about printing documents, more about marking objects.
Okay, that makes sense. So, niche but essential applications, which explains why it's a multi-billion-dollar market. And that growth set to more than double. What does that trajectory tell us? I mean, what's fueling this quiet boom? Is it new uses, better tech?
Well, the report points to a mix of things, really. The numbers obviously show strong demand, but underneath that, you've got increased use in specialized industrial marking. Like I said, think high-precision stuff on delicate electronics or even medical devices. There's also more demand for really tough, unique labels, especially in logistics, tracking goods across the supply chain.
Right, durability matters there.
Exactly. And then there's innovation. They can print on more materials now, metal, plastic, you name it. Plus, like a lot of tech, the manufacturing costs have likely come down a bit, making them, well, more attractive financially for more businesses. So it's precision, wider applications, and better accessibility driving it.
Fascinating. So it's this consistent upward trend, over more than a decade. That suggests real market confidence. Okay, so with that global picture looking so strong, where is this growth actually happening? Let's zoom in a bit, maybe start with North America. The report says it's a big piece of the pie, growing from around $550 million in 2021 and heading towards, over $1.1 billion by 2033?
Yeah, North America's growth is definitely solid, pretty much doubling over that forecast period. And within the region, no surprise, the U.S. is the big player. It started around $430 million back in 2021, and it's projected to hit over $858 million by 2033, almost double.
Wow.
And Canada's looking strong, too, more than doubling at $67 million from 2021 to over $144 million. Mexico is also right in the mix, expected to go from about $51 million to over $100 million. It really shows these printers are getting, deeply integrated into the industrial base there.
Okay, so strong growth in North America. What about across the pond, in Europe? The report puts Europe at roughly $482 million in 2021, climbing towards almost $1 billion, $988 million by 2033. Steady climb there, too.
Absolutely steady, yes. And the big economies are leading, as you'd expect. Germany is forecast to reach over $176 million by 2033. The UK and France are both projected to clear the $100 million mark as well.
Okay.
But what's interesting is the widespread growth. It's not just the big three. Italy and Russia are also significant contributors. Both are expected to be well over $85 million by 2033.
And I noticed mentions of Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg, all showing pretty decent growth percentages.
That's right. Spain, for instance, goes from about $39 million to over $74 million. Sweden from around $11.5 million to nearly $26 million. Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg, they all show strong upward trends. It really underscores that the uses for these printers are broad. They're finding niches across all sorts of European industries, not just the manufacturing giants. Even the rest of Europe category, which lumps together the others, is forecast to nearly double, hitting over 196 million. That says a lot about broad adoption.
Okay, now, Asia Pacific. This is where the numbers get really eye-popping, right? The report calls it the largest regional market by a long shot, over 840 million in 2021, an area exploding to over 1.8 billion by 2033. That scale is just, wow. What's going on there? Is it just the sheer size or something specific driving that incredible growth, especially in places like China and India?
Well, it's both, really. Scale is definitely part of it, but you can't ignore the speed of industrialization.
Yeah.
Especially in China and India, their manufacturing sectors are just, booming. China alone started around 327 million in 2021, projected to hit over 726 million by 2033. That's more than double.
Huge.
And India shows amazing growth too, from about 137 million up to over 305 million. They're putting these advanced printing solutions into electronics, automotive, textiles, maybe faster in some ways than more established markets. They're building new lines with this tech. And let's not forget Japan, South Korea, Australia. They're all significant players too, each expected to surpass 100 million by 2033.
And I saw notes on smaller but rapidly growing markets there too, like Singapore, Southeast Asia,
Yeah,
Taiwan.
exactly. It shows how pervasive the trend is across the region. Singapore is set to more than double. Southeast Asia as a whole, same story, from 51 million to over 115 million. Taiwan's also seeing big increases. And again, that rest of APAC's category is projected to hit over 170 million by 2033. It just cements Asia-Pacific's dominance here.
Okay, let's shift gears. South America. What's the
Yeah.
picture there? The report shows growth from about 172 million in 2021 to around 396 million by 2033. Solid upward trend.
Very solid. Brazil is definitely the leader in that region. They're projected to go from roughly 65 million in 2021 for over 147 million by 2033, so more than doubling. But what's really noteworthy is the consistency across the continent. Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile, and the rest of South America category too. They're all showing really consistent growth. The report mentions compound annual growth rates, EAGR, often above 7% for these countries.
7% CAGR. That's really strong year-over-year growth, isn't it?
It really is. It indicates very healthy market momentum down there.
Okay, how about the Middle East? Saw impressive expansion there too, from around 152 million in 21 to over 343 million forecast for 2033.
The key players identified are Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the UAE, Egypt, and Qatar. The UAE's growth is highlighted specifically going from about 26, almost 27 million, up to over 61 million by 2033. Again, more than doubling. There's a lot of investment happening in the region. New infrastructure, manufacturing capabilities creates demand for these kinds of specialized printers.
Right. And finally, Africa. The report mentions some of the highest growth rates there, jumping from about 45 million in 2021 to almost 115 million by 2033. That seems like a huge percentage leap.
It is. Percentage-wise, it's very impressive. Nigeria, South Africa, and the rest of Africa market all showed EGR figures above that 7% mark we talked about. It suggests significant market penetration is happening as industries develop across the continent. Nigeria, for example, is projected to reach over 23 million by 2033. Starting smaller, but growing fast.
So we've done a quick tour on the globe here. North America, Europe, the massive Asia-Pacific market, South America, Middle East, Africa. When you pull it all back together, what's the main story? What patterns really jump out from all this regional data?
Well, I think the main story is that consistent, robust global growth we started with. It's not a fluke. The data really confirms it's not just one or two hotspots driving everything. Yes, Asia-Pacific is the volume leader, no doubt, but the rapid expansion rates in places like Africa, the steady doubling in North America and Europe, the strong growth in South America, it shows this is widespread. It's a technology finding valuable applications everywhere, diverse contributions from all corners of the globe. It really feels like a maybe niche but globally relevant technology hitting its stride.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the big takeaway really is this stylus printer market, it's bigger than many might think, and it's growing significantly everywhere. Asia-Pacific leads in size, sure, but you've got impressive growth rates in regions like Africa and just solid, steady expansion in the established markets too, all driven by this need for precision printing on all sorts of things. And just a reminder, these numbers and insights are straight from Cognitive Market Research's report.
Right. And maybe it leaves us with a final thought, something for you, the listener, to ponder. We see these consistent growth trends, these expanding uses across so many different regions. So the question is, what's next? What further innovations, maybe in materials, or even higher precision, or perhaps integrating with AI or robotics, what might fuel the next wave of growth for these stylus printers globally?
That's a great question to chew on, something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep exploring, keep learning. We'll catch you next time with more insights.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to talk about something you probably thought was, I don't know, ancient history. Stylus printers, dot matrix, impact printers, whatever you call them. You might be thinking, seriously, are those still a thing? Well, yeah, according to cognitive market research, they very much are. So our mission today is to figure out why. What's the mix of like old school utility, specific industry needs, and just plain demand that keeps them going? We want to give you the shortcut to understanding this, well, surprising little market segment.
Yeah, it is surprising. What's fascinating here is how this market isn't just hanging on in certain niches. It's actually strategically important and holds this value that, frankly, most people just completely overlook.
That really is intriguing. I mean, you hear constantly about paperless offices, cloud everything, super fast laser printers.
Yeah.
So what's actually driving demand for stylus printers? Like, who is still buying these machines and what for?
Well, it's not just one single thing. It's really a combo of very specific requirements. For starters, think about tough environments: logistics, government, retail back offices, banking, places like that.
Yeah.
They are still, indispensable there. It's partly handling multi-part forms.
Multi-part forms, right, like carbon copies.
Exactly. And in sectors heavy on compliance, think customs, transportation, that physical tamper-proof carbon copy, it's often a legal requirement. You need it for audit trails. Digital just doesn't cut it sometimes.
Okay, so regulation plays a big part.
A huge part. And then there's cost. For just churning out high volumes of basic printouts like bulk jobs, the cost per page is incredibly low. Makes them perfect for warehouses, shipping departments, inventory systems, places where pennies per page really add up.
Right.
And finally, just sheer toughness, reliability. Think about a dusty factory floor or maybe a humid warehouse. These stylus printers often just keep chugging along where, a more delicate inkjet or laser printer might fail pretty quickly.
Huh. So it's like that trusty old pickup truck analogy.
Yeah.
It just keeps running, does the job, doesn't complain much. It makes you wonder, maybe we do sometimes chase the shiny new tech when good enough and super reliable is what's actually needed. But let's be honest here. There have got to be major downsides, right? I mean, with all this talk about efficiency and digital transformation, where do stylus printers just, fall flat? We're not seeing them everywhere.
Oh, absolutely not. You're right. Despite those niche strengths, the limitations are significant. Obsolescence is probably the biggest one compared to modern tech. Inkjet, laser, thermal printers, they're just faster, much faster. They're quieter too, and offer way, way better print quality, higher resolution.
Okay, yeah, speed and noise. I can imagine those are big issues.
Definitely. They can be pretty loud, and they are noticeably slower. So totally unsuitable for a quiet office or anywhere needing high throughput. And forget about looks or detailed printing. If you need nice graphics or color, not happening. That really restricts them from creative fields, marketing, that sort of thing.
Makes sense.
And there's also this growing worry about support. Finding parts, getting service, it can make using them long-term trickier and maybe more expensive over time.
Yeah, that long-term viability question is interesting. It's hard to ignore those downsides, especially with noise. I remember that sound. But given those constraints, are they getting any better? Or are they just sort of accepted in their specific roles? If we try and connect this to the bigger picture, what trends are kind of shaping where this market is headed?
Well, they are adapting, but very much within those specific niches we talked about. Their strong position in those compliance-focused sectors, healthcare, railways, government, that's likely to continue. Anywhere needing rock-solid, hard-copy documentation, reliable audit trails, they excel there.
So consistency is key.
Right. And we are seeing some development towards maybe more energy efficient models, maybe slightly more compact designs, nothing revolutionary, but improvements. And critically, they still talk to the old systems, legacy ERP software, the big company-wide platforms, or older terminal setups. They integrate well there in IT infrastructures that aren't getting ripped out and replaced overnight.
Compatibility, that's a big one too.
Huge. And maybe the last big piece is emerging markets. Places where the digital shift is happening more slowly. Stylus printers are still vital there for basic stuff. Billing, admin work, verifying documents, especially in, say, rural areas or government offices.
Okay, so the big takeaway here seems to be stylus printers, definitely not mainstream anymore, but extinct. Absolutely not. They hold this really specific, almost hidden strategic value in certain sectors, quietly doing critical jobs other tech can't, or maybe just won't.
Exactly. They're the definition of a niche player doing essential work behind the scenes. And, this whole deep dive into stylus printers, it kind of brings up a bigger question for you, the listener. In a world that's always chasing the absolute newest technology, what other legacy tech might be quietly indispensable? What other older systems are out there performing critical roles we barely even notice or think about? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?